Welcome to the North Tonawanda Football Hall of Fame YouTube channel. I'm Ed Helinski. Glad you could join us here today. Got another great guest for us. This one, a North Tonawanda legend. Played in the late 50s. He's a member of the North Tonawanda Football Hall of Fame class of 1977 as a lineman, the one and the only Paul Roman. Paul, good to catch up with you finally. You know, you being the world traveler that you are, and you're kind of slippery. It's hard to get a hold of you, you know?
I'm trying to pack as much into these last years as I can.
Good for you. For those of you not aware of you and your career, give us a little bit of a synopsis of your high school football career.
All right, I couldn't play freshman ball because I wasn't old enough. In those days, you had to be I'm 14, and I was only 13 as a freshman. And so I couldn't play freshman ball. I then came back as a sophomore and played JV and had a pretty good year and went to varsity the next year, became a starter, and started for 2 years on a couple of pretty good teams, really. I mean, our record my junior year wasn't the greatest, but we played some good football.
When you came up, did you come up through an organized like a Tyro system, or did you play? Did you come up through Sandlot?
No, we just played Sandlot ball. You know, these certain areas in North Tonawanda, like the projects had a team, the Italian boys had a team, the Polish boys had a team, and we just play each other on the weekend.
What part of NT did you grow up at?
I actually grew up out in Martinville. We moved to Linwood Avenue up in Grantwick when I was going into my senior year.
You played for George Vetter as well too, and Al McGlisco. Talk about those days.
I played all of my senior or varsity career with George was the coach, and Al was the line coach, and Al was a very good coach. I really enjoyed playing with him. And never got excited, you know, always kept us cool, taught us a lot of things about football. He was a good man. And George, he was very, could be very volatile, you know, but a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun with George too.
With George,
football was fun then.
With George, it was always run, 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 wasn't it?
Yes, we did wind sprints every practice. We did, well, if you screwed up too much, you did some track work and, you know, a couple of laps. And we all did a couple of laps after practice too. You know, you're right. It was run, 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 run. You were going to be in better shape than the other team. You hoped.
Was it? Who gets credit for making you a very good tackle? Is it George Vetter? Is it McGlisco? Is it your teammates? You know, how did that whole process come out for you?
It was a combination of Al McGlisco and my teammates. I played with some pretty good football players. And you know how that is. The better players you play with, the better you play. And if you have talent, of course, but, you know, the better you play. And it's like playing against the opposition. The better opposition you play against, the better you play. I always believe that.
What do you remember about playing in the old Niagara Frontier League and playing against the Tonawandas and the Kenmores and the Niagara Falls teams and I don't know, was even Looport in existence at that point?
Trot was in there, Niagara Falls, LaSalle, Kenmore, Lackawanna, Lockport, and us. And all the games were pretty tough, with the exception of Trot. Trot didn't have the number of kids in there to have a really good team. You know, on occasion they'd have a good team, but the years we played them, we didn't have any trouble beating.
Did it even bother you, or any concern to you that you were playing a smaller school one week and a comparable big school the next week, or?
No, I can tell you what. I don't think we ever thought of it that way. You know, Trot was scrappy. Believe me. They could be tough on certain plays and different things, but they overall they just didn't have the strength that the bigger schools had. But Tonawanda was a smaller school, but they were always tough. They always had a good record.
What do you recall about those TNT games that you played?
Uh, the first one I played was in my junior year, and we lost 20-6 in a mud bath. And I thought we would play them a little better, but they were just strong. They won the championship that year. And my senior year, I remember we lost a game we should not have lost against Lackawanna. And so consequently, we had a tie, I believe it was against LaSalle, and I can't really recall. But then, so we went into Tonawanda, and they were undefeated at 7-0. And so we beat them 7-0 and wound up 6-1-1. And that tie cost us actually the championship. But they were very tough games. I don't know how to really explain it, but TNT was always a battle. Whether you were good, bad, or indifferent, was always a battle. There were too many blowouts that I can remember. We beat them 7-0. And the one thing I remember about that game the most is they had a first and goal to go on our 5-yard line and wound up after fourth down on the 7. So we really shut them down, and we had a good football team.
You did have a good football team. You played with some guys like Joe Colataci, who went in the Hall of Fame as well too, and a guy named Frank Burke. Would that be the same as Fran Burke?
That would be Fran Burke. Yes, it would be. Good football player, tough kid, really tough kid.
Talk about those teammates that you played with.
Okay, Joe was a guard, really a good pulling guard. I played the outside tackle we called it at the time. And a lot of my responsibility was downfield blocking by pulling and leading plays. And we had a center named Harold Kuyu who weighed probably about 170 pounds and was as tough a guy as you'll ever want to meet. I mean, he really was good. And let's see, the other guard was Henry Julian at 230 pounds and was the fastest 100-yard sprinter on the team. Could really run. And I'm trying to think of the other tackles with me was Jerio. I don't remember his first name, but big, strong kid too. We had some good people in there. And one guy that was impressive to me was Jim Bowden. He was an end, and he played defensive end also, and he was very tough, very tough. On defense, you're probably not going to believe this one, but Gary Brocious we played the Oklahoma defense mostly.
5-2.
5-4-2, yeah. And Gary was the nose tackle at about 170 pounds. And played for, you couldn't get near the guy. His hands were so strong at that time. He had hands like mine are fairly large, but his were unbelievable and strong, very strong. He just hold people off and roll with them, It's very good. Linebackers. Jimmy Bird played fullback for us. Good, strong guy. I think he went to one of the Ivy League schools. I'm not sure. And let's see who else I can remember. Well, Dick Wrazin, of course, one of my best friends, still is. And he was the left halfback, which is an integral part of the single wing football team. He takes all the snaps, you know, and hands the ball off and and even throws passes. But Dick Weber was our tailback. Joe Chabelle, as a junior, was split time with him, and they were both quick, good. And that's about as far as I can recollect at this point.
Were the practices tougher than the actual games?
At times, I would say the early practices, because they wanted you to realize you had to work hard, and boy, some of those first double practices were really tough, physically tough.
What was your off-season training regime? What was it like, or did you have one?
I didn't really have one until the summer after my junior year, when Joe Chabelle and I said, we're not getting sick of these practices anymore, these double practices. So we worked out behind the high school on the track every day from mid-July till we started football, I think, on September 1st in those days.
You became all Western New York, and the Buffalo News named you to their 1958 to 1970 all Western New York football team as a lineman. As a lineman, that's really hard to get those type of accolades, because it's typically the running backs and the quarterbacks and maybe the ends that get all the glory. What's your thoughts about being named to such a prestigious group like this?
Well, I thought it was it was prestigious in the fact that it was the very first one. They didn't have an all Western New York team until that one. And to be named the very first one was kind of nice. And to be picked over all of the guys in Western New York was quite an honor. It really was. There were some pretty good football players in Western New York at that time. And I felt I felt it was quite an honor to be picked for that squad. Joe and I, Colataci and I, were both picked for that squad.
Right. I mean, which is more amazing, two NT guys as offensive linemen to that squad during that time period. After high school, did you have offers to play college ball? Or
yes, I accepted one to the University of Iowa, and I spent 2 years there, and I got a little disillusioned with football, I think, in general. I don't know why. Just one of those things. And I left, I came home, and I never played. I actually played one more year. I went down to Florida and played in what they called the Florida Football League. It was kind of a minor professional league, and played with some pretty good people. Do you remember the coach from it? Used to be on the radio here.
Yes.
I can't remember his name, but he played on our team. He was from, I think, Illinois, University of Illinois, and he was drafted by Cleveland. Cut, and he came down and played with us. We had some really good football players. Don Burrow was a quarterback in that league, and I don't remember a lot of the names. We had a lot of last cuts from the NFL played in that league.
You went to Iowa. How was it to play Big Ten football?
Well, I tell you what, I think, in my opinion, the guys that I played with were just as good as the guys I played with against as freshmen there in Iowa. I mean, they had guys who were all American high school players, and I didn't have any trouble playing against them, you know. But it was much more intense. And one of the problems was when I went there, I was 17, and you're looking at a lot of people who are 18 and 19 years old that you're playing against. Big difference when you're 17, you know. Physically, I don't think it really hurt me at all, but you know, I just wasn't ready to play against guys like that, I think, and with that intensity.
How were you recruited?
It was fun when I was in high school.
Right. How were
came
you
over.
recruited? Was it by word of mouth or?
You know, I think there was a guy in Niagara Falls, and I don't remember his name, who was an alumni of Iowa and knew one of the coaches there. And he contacted him about me, and George sent some film out there. And then they came to see me, and then I took a trip out there. And
How did they woo you? Was it a steak dinner that they took you out for, or just took you to a burger joint, or
oh no,
how was the
they,
recruiting with that?
they took us to the best restaurant around at the time.
Okay.
I mean, you wouldn't believe Iowa City when I was there was a village of 15,000 people. If you go there now, you would never even recognize the place. It's unbelievably different. There's tons of people there, big businesses, everything. It was a kind of a sleepy little college town when I went there.
You had guys.
Actually,
Go
I
ahead.
think I think Iowa was Northwestern was the only smaller school in Iowa in the Big Ten. But
You had guys out of
they
Niagara
had
Falls.
coaches who were unbelievable.
Yeah, you
And
had guys
coaches.
out of Niagara Falls. There was a Michigan State connection. Guys like Roger Haley
Yep.
and Mazza. They went to Michigan State, and is that how it was? You knew a guy who knew a guy, and they recommended you, and maybe tape got
I would say
exchanged or
that
sent.
I would say that there was a lot of that in those days because today with instant communication and instant people can take a movie of you with their camera. I mean, if you saw some of the films that we had of our games, especially night games, you wouldn't even know football was going on. You know,
Well,
but
that's what we have on
today,
that YouTube channel. We have those games, some of those games, and yeah, they're not the best of quality in any way,
uh,
shape, or form.
no, uh, the best quality were the day games, like against Lockport, who didn't have lights, and I think Kenmore didn't have lights at that time, so we played them in the afternoon. And
Those afternoon games, George would have them filmed in color because
yes,
at behind the high school there, the old junior high school or whatever you want to call it, the color was no good. Color film was no good at nighttime.
no, not at all. It was very hard to see what was going on. And just the quality of the film and the quality of the cameras. Things today are so much different, as you well know.
What was the equipment like that you played with in high school? You had the leather helmets, didn't you?
Yes, we did, but they were like very similar to the Notre Dame helmets at the time, and I don't remember anybody getting a concussion. I really don't. So I doesn't mean we didn't get one. It just means I don't remember anybody getting one.
Who was the toughest guy you ever played against?
Probably a guy named Kevin Brinkworth from St. Joe's. He was tough. He was very tough.
What made him that? Was he hard to
Big,
block,
strong guy.
or just big,
Big,
strong guy?
strong guy. Yeah. And he played a lot of middle guard, like they played the Oklahoma two at the time. Almost everybody did because, Bud Wilkinson was the god of football at that time. And everybody played that Oklahoma defense. We had basically two. We played the Oklahoman, we played the 6-3 and 6-3-2, I think it was, yeah. And those we didn't play sophisticated defense. We just played hard nosed defense.
Well,
Like
there was very little passing at that point.
that's true. There was very little passing, and George was not a proponent of passing. He still played the single wing, which was power football. And
Besides the football helmets, what was the rest of your equipment like at that point?
I had we had good sets of shoulder pads. I had I don't even know what you would call it. I had to slip my hands they had to put them down over my hands, and they fit down on my shoulders. And then there was a part that covered your chest and your back. So we had pretty good equipment in North Tonawanda.
Do you have any regrets about your high school playing career?
None. A lot of fun. Never got hurt. You know.
Would you do would you do it all the same?
Yes, I would. The guys I played with were fun. A lot of fun. We had a lot of fun together, and played some pretty good football.
Were you guys during those varsity years? Would you consider yourself to be a close knit team?
I think we were. Yes, I do.
You guys would socialize and fraternize after the game and before the game, and watch each other's backs and things like that.
Certainly, we did that. Yes, and after every home game, we had a dance in the gym, and the whole team went to the dance.
What do you think about today's football? Whether it's college football or high school football? I'm not even going to talk about the professional because that's a whole different cat.
I think the kids are bigger, stronger, lift more weights than we ever thought of doing, throw the ball much more than we did. But I think it's strength and speed is much greater today than it was then.
You travel quite a bit with you and your wife. When you're in a restaurant or maybe having a cocktail, and you meet somebody and start talking about where you're from, and maybe you start talking about your high school career. What do you tell people about growing up in North Tonawanda?
Oh, great experience. Small town, close knit, a lot of good friends. Even as I said before, when we had these local kids teams that we play on the weekends from different sections of the town, it was never grudge matches, stuff like that. It was just fun, you know. And I think North Tonawanda is a great place to grow up in. You know, I had two kids grow up here, go to school here. My son has a PhD in chemistry and a law degree, and my daughter has a double master's, and she's a physical therapist. So, you know, don't tell me North Tonawanda can't produce good students, because they can. It's the students that make it. It's a great place. I've been here I think we moved here from Pennsylvania when I was about 2. So in effect, I've been here all my life. I'm 81 now, so.
You look great for 81. I mean, I don't.
Well,
you've got a fountain of youth somewhere in the back room or something like that.
I wish that was true, but well, actually, I guess it's not a big deal from when I talk to people. And I'm going to have hip surgery here in a very short period of time. My left hip has given me a lot of trouble, but other than that, I feel good. You know, can walk every day. I go hunting, fishing, play golf. You know, still doing all that. You know, and I think, in my opinion, to a pretty high degree. So,
what would you? What advice would you give today's young players, high school players, on how to make the best of their high school football playing days and career?
Stay in shape, work out all the time. If you really want to play football on a large scale, you're going to have to always be in shape. There's no off season. Dedication, I guess, is the most important thing if you want to go on.
Besides football, did you play any other sports at NT?
Yeah, I played baseball. I was a catcher. I was on varsity for 3 years in baseball, and that's the only other sport I played. But I was also all NFL in that one too.
You've done quite well for yourself so far.
Yep.
We talked about several things so far. What would you like to talk about that I haven't brought up?
Gee, I don't know. I don't. Nothing I can think of. You've done a pretty good job of covering everything, I think.
The floor is yours, Paul.
Yeah. I just, I've always thought that it was North Tonawanda was a great place to grow up, and it was a great place to go to school. Everybody, there wasn't any problems. You have kid problems, a little argument with somebody, that kind of thing. But that's not, we were tight in those days. We really were. That I think was the difference.
When they talk about Paul Roman, how do you want to be remembered by?
Nice guy, good teammate, good father. I like to be well-rounded.
Terrific. Paul Roman, this has been a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
I have too. And I'm glad we finally got together.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining me. I wish you well. Be well and stay well. And we'll catch up with you soon.
Okay,
thank you so much.
I wish you the same. Good health. Take care.